Today, it's time for our bedtime story. Far beneath the shimmering surface of the sea, where sunlight danced like diamonds and seagrass swayed in time with the currents, there lived a cheerful little fish named Ruby. Ruby was the smallest of 3 siblings, and she had the brightest red scales in their entire coral neighborhood. Her older brothers, Rusty and Reef, were always curious, brave, and sometimes just a little bit too daring. Ruby lived in a cozy shipwreck nestled between colorful corals, alongside her gentle and wise mama fish named Coraline. Often told her little ones, never swim too far from home, and always be careful who you trust in the big wide sea. One sunny morning, Coraline packed a tiny satchel of seaweed snacks and moss cookies and kissed each of her children on the forehead. Heading to the kelp forest to gather food, she said, "Promise me you'll stay inside the ship until I come back." "Yes, Mama," the 3 little red fish chimed together, their voices bubbly with joy. Ruby watched her mother disappear into the blue, her tail flicking gently with each graceful movement. Inside the shipwreck, the siblings played tag and peekaboo between the coral pillars. Ruby soon noticed something strange. Rusty and Reef were peeking through a crack in the side of the ship, whispering to each other. "What are you looking at?" Ruby swam over. "There's someone outside," Reef whispered. "They're red like us?" Indeed, a large red fish was floating just beyond the reef wall. It had a box of moss cookies and wore a warm smile. "Hello," the fish called. "I'm here to share some delicious treats. Would you like to try one?" Rusty's eyes lit up. "They're our favorite." But Ruby paused. Her fins trembled slightly. Mama said not to talk to strangers. She reminded them. "Oh, come on, Ruby," said Rusty. "They look like us. They're probably a cousin or something." The stranger floated closer, the cookies now right outside the door. Rusty opened the hatch. "Just for a taste," he said. The 3 swam out, but as they neared the red stranger, something strange happened. A fishing hook dropped from above, brushing the fish's backhand, knocked off a patch of coral powder that had been covering a sharp fin. Ruby gasped. "That's not a red fish. That's a shark." It was true. The red fish was really a sneaky shark named who was part of the feared shark gang that lurked in the darker parts of the ocean. "Lang!" cried Ruby, darting behind a rock. But it was too late for Rusty and Reef. Scarlet snapped her tail, wrapped them in seaweed, and zipped away into the murky water. Ruby's heart pounded. Her brothers were gone. She raced back to the ship, tears streaming down her tiny cheeks. "Mama, Mama," she cried. Coraline was just returning, carrying kelp bundles in her fins. When she saw Ruby alone, she dropped everything. "What happened?" she asked, her voice trembling. Ruby told her everything about the red disguise, the cookies, the hook, and the seaweed trap. Coraline closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and then nodded. "There's no time to waste," she said. "We need help." Without a second thought, Coraline swam straight to the heart of the reef where Willie, the gentle blue whale, often rested. Willie was huge, bigger than any creature Ruby had ever seen. He had a voice that rumbled like thunder and eyes soft as seagrass. "Please, Willie," Coraline pleaded. "They took my sons." Willie gave a solemn nod and let out a low, echoing call that rippled through the sea like a bell. "I'll help you." With Ruby riding safely on her back and Coraline beside them, Willie followed the seaweed trail left behind. The trail led them to a sunken cave where the shark Gangscarla and her two brothers, Fang and Grits, were gathered around a bubbling cauldron made of coral and shell. "Let's eat," growled Fang. "Wait," Scarla sniffed. "Where's the third red fish?" That was when Ruby, heart pounding, peeked over the edge of a boulder and shouted, "I escaped." The sharks whirled around, but then came a deep voice. "Enough," rumbled Willie, who appeared just behind them, his giant shadow filling the cave. "Who said that?" growled Grits. "I did," said Willie, his mouth opening wide. The sharks froze. "I'll give you one chance," said Willie. "Leave this part of the ocean and never return, or I'll make sure you never bother any little fish again." But Fang snarled, "You're outnumbered." Willie's fins flexed. "No, you're outmatched." He opened his mouth with a mighty swoosh. The water swirled, and before the sharks could swim away, they were pulled into his mouth gently, without harm, then sealed in his giant belly, like fish in a quiet cave. "I'll let you out," Willie said firmly, "but only if you promise never to chase or trick the little ones again." From inside came muffled voices. "We promise. We promise." Willie gave a satisfied rumble, turned to the side, and released the sharks in a soft bubble stream that sent them swimming away in a dizzy spin. "Let that be the end of your mischief," he called after them. Ruby swam straight to her brothers, who were still wrapped in seaweed but unharmed. She untangled them, and they hugged her tightly. "You were so brave," said Reef. "I should have listened to you," whispered Rusty. When they got back to their cozy shipwreck, Coraline tucked each of them in and kissed them on the forehead. "From now on," she said gently, "we stay together. And we remember that sometimes the scariest dangers come wearing friendly smiles." Ruby yawned and curled her tail. Outside, the ocean swayed with a sleepy rhythm. Tiny bubbles rose like lullabies, and even the coral seemed to hum a gentle tune. Willie, the wise whale, drifted past their home once more, humming a low note that made the water shimmer with calm dot. From that day on, the three red fish never opened the door to a stranger, no matter how friendly they looked or how sweet their cookies smelled. And Ruby, the littlest of all, was now known as the bravest. She had outsmarted the shark gang, protected her brothers, and reminded everyone that courage doesn't come from size, it comes from doing the right thing, even when you're afraid. As she closed her eyes that night, Ruby dreamed of safe reefs, songs carried on whale calls, and a world where even the smallest fish could swim without fear. And the ocean, as always, sang her softly to sleep. The end.